Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of our online mixing and mastering course. I'm so excited for this episode because we are finally learning about EQ. Anyways, this episode is going to cover EQ and the frequency spectrum. It's a really, really fun part of mixing, and I know that you guys will enjoy it. So, we are going to do it secondary school style and go to the book. So, yeah, the frequency spectrum. So basically, the frequency spectrum is the entire range of frequency that a sound has. So imagine you turned into a goat and you said bleating. That bleat is in a particular frequency range. And for the human ears, our frequency range that is audible to the human ears is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. So, and on the frequency spectrum, it can be divided into lows, low mids, high mids, and highs. You see those low rumbly sounds. Let's say a trailer was passing by on your road and you can't even see the trailer, but you can feel the vibration. That is really like lows, right? And then when they're playing the drum in your church and then you can feel the kick, the bass guitars, those are instruments that live around the low mid. So for different sounds, we have what we call like the primary range. So for different instruments, different sounds, we have a primary range that they all live in. So let's take a kick, for example. The kick is around lows and then low mid. And then let's take bass, for example. The same thing, somewhere around here, right? And let's take the human voice, for example. Depending on if you're a guy or a girl, the male vocals is kind of deeper than the female vocals. Especially like think about the people that sing the opera, those soprano singers with really, really high pitch. Or think about the keys on the piano. The C would be around the mids. Then anything that is towards the left would be, let's say, low mids. So we go from the low octaves to the high octaves. Think about it in that way and you would understand. So if we're to think about guitars and vocals, we would say low mids to high mids. That's where our vocals live. Either you're a guy or a lady. It's just that for men, they might reside here more than they reside here, while for women they might reside here more than they reside here. So basically, this is what the frequency spectrum is. And so we've been saying frequency. So what is equalization now? Equalization gives us a chance to be able to edit particular frequencies in a sound. So let's assume my vocal range is on this side. And after I listen to the song I've recorded, I realized that I really don't like how I sound around here. What an equalizer allows us to do is to pick certain frequency and either reduce it or increase it. We are going to see all of this later on, like practice it, but let's just understand the basic thing. So an equalizer gives us the opportunity to either reduce or boost a particular frequency. So unlike when we are gain staging and you pick a whole clip and you either have to increase the clip or reduce it, equalizer separates the frequencies that makes up a sound and allows you to edit it per frequency, which is like really, if you're a nerd, you'll find that's really fascinating. And also when you are mixing a song, there's a lot of elements in the song. You have your drums, you have your vocals, you have your guitar, and sometimes there is an overlap because let's say guitars and vocals, we kind of lie in the same kind of primary range. The primary range for vocals and the guitar is kind of almost on the same kind of, I think if vocals are here this way, guitars are somewhere around here. So there's a lot of overlap. So equalization allows you to be able to make space so that everything can shine without being muddy. Because imagine you're playing drums, you're playing guitar, you're playing everything, and there is no form of equalization or anything that is going on. It might sound crowdy and muddy. So equalization allows you to give space from something. Let me use the kick and the bass as an example. Let's use the kick. Let's say the kick is around 50 hertz to, let's say, 500. and there's a bass that is around 40 to 600. In this case, the kick and the bass might, this is the bass now, right? And this is the kick. In this case, the overlap might not let us hear the kick because the bass is covering it up. So what I can do is pick this part of the frequency of the bass and bring it down so that this kick can shine. I'm going to show us this on the laptop so that we can understand better. Speaking of the three important parameters for every kind of EQ to have, which is the frequency, bandwidth, and the gain, we are going to put an equalizer on here. So let's just search for EQ on our browser, and like we've been using throughout the class, we're going to use EQ8. So there should be a way to expand this, is there not? It's been a while I used this particular EQ, but then for the purpose of this class, we are only going to be using free EQs and stock plugins generally. So this is EQ8, and like I said, for most EQs, you see three knobs. That's frequency, gain, and Q. Q also means bandwidth. When you see Q and an EQ, is the bandwidth. So this goes from let's say 0 Hz to a little over 10K. Let's see where this is. This is around 22K. So that's like the range for this EQ. For different EQs, they might provide different ranges. For example, Fab Filter Pro Q3 goes a little bit above 30 kilohertz. So you can keep that in mind for different EQs. There can be slight differences, but nothing too serious. The knowledge is very much applicable. So for this particular EQ, we have 8 bands. Only 4 of them are activated. As you can see, only 4 of them are checked. Like that's why they are blue. We can activate the others if we wanted to. And then we have this frequency. So if I selected this one right here, you can see that it's on 30 Hertz. So frequency is the particular frequency that we are choosing, while gain is, you can see this that says from 0 to -12 and then 0 to 12 and on the upper part. This is how high or how low we are reducing the particular frequency that we have chosen. And then this Q is how big our band is going to be. So let's choose this particular one that is right here, 2, right? And you can see from the frequency, it says 200 Hertz. So it's around 200 Hertz. And if you check down, you can see this is 100, this is 200, this is 100, from 100, and this is around 1K. So between here and here, we have about, I'm going to say 900 Hertz, right? Yes, 900, between 100 and 1K. So around here is 200. So for the Q is how wide the frequency range, how wide is the frequency range we are selecting. Let's now that I selected this, if I push this up, right? If you're looking at this knob, you see that the gain has increased 12 dBs, and that's because I pushed it up to 12 dB, which means I picked up this particular frequency and increased it to 12 dB. And if I brought it down, you can see I've decreased it by 12 dB. So if I would equalize this particular track right now, what did he do? I would come on here. There's a lot of things going on around less than 100K, and to me, I just think that is noise. Anything less than 80, 100 to me, usually for my vocals, is noise, and for most people's vocals, you might want to cut that off. So we are going to come on here and pick a low cut filters. So there are these things that we call filters for on EQs. So there are different kind of cuts that we can make on an EQ basically. So when you choose this particular low cut filter, it allows you to, anything that is behind this filter, behind whatever point, but let's say I move this to around 100, everything that is behind this 100 I moved it to is going to be cut off. So it's no longer included. So let's see how this sounds after we cut that off.
Like you, what
What did he do?
You see, there's a lot
Why do
more
you
clarity.
act a
Let's move it
fool
back and see.
for love? It's unlike you to turn so blue.
So let's leave
What
it
made
right
you
here for now.
turn a fool for love?
I think is we've
It's no
taken away quite
fight.
a number, like we've taken away quite a lot of rumbling and noise just by doing that. As a beginner, you might wonder that I don't even know what is going on. I do not understand anything, which is why this is why we make use of frequency guides, which I'm going to include for you guys to look at. Frequency guides are like cheat codes that tell you if you're mixing a guitar, this is where you should boost, this is where you should cut. It just guides you, doesn't exactly tell you what it is. It's not like it's a rule of thumb, it's not like it's compulsory, but it tells you what to do and how to do it when it comes to frequencies, when it comes to boosting and reducing. So I'm going to provide those frequency guides, but for now, let's just watch.
Unlike you.
Around this place, mm,
Unlike
I feel
you.
like there might be some
What did
things
he
that I do not
do?
like, but I don't want to
Why do
completely
you
take it out
act a
because
fool
we are
for
getting to the
love?
body of the song itself.
It's unlike
So I'm just going
you
to reduce it
to turn
slightly.
so
Or
blue.
I don't like the
What
way it's
made
shaped. I
you
feel like it's too
turn a
wide. So we
fool
come here
for
on the
love?
Q, which is the
It's not
bandwidth,
your fight
and
to be
narrow it
sober.
out. So finally you get to see what the bandwidth does. When I brought it down, it felt too wide and it didn't have any definition to it. It's just like it was affecting all of the frequencies. But when I adjusted the Q to make it smaller so that it can target the particular frequency that I want to fix. So let's listen and do
Unlike
this.
you, what did he do?
See, now it's narrow
Why do
and
you
it's
act a
targeting the
fool
particular
for
frequency I
love?
needed to reduce. This
It's
might be too
unlike
narrow though,
you
so
to turn so blue. What made you turn a fool?
one method that I would also advise you to do as a beginner is called the sweeping technique. It's just you exaggerating a little bit. This is too wide, so let's go to the Q and do what? Adjust it. So you set like a moderate Q to make it just wide or narrow enough, and then you sweep around and just find problematic frequencies that sound unpleasant, and then you slightly bring them down, or you bring them down a lot depending on how you're feeling or what you're hearing and what is good for the song. So now let's try the sweeping technique together. So you just go around. If you're following along in this class, I want you to know that you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. Listen to yourself, trust yourself. You have to build trust as you continue to mix. Listen to your ears, trust your ears, and then try to do this the right way. So just sweep around.
Unlike you, what did he do? Why do you
I can
act
already
a
hear
fool
something
for love?
here that I don't like,
It's unlike
but
you
let's just keep going.
to turn so blue. What made you turn a
There's just something
fool
here that feels
for
quite
love?
boxy
It's
to me,
not your
so I'm going
fight
to
be sober
slightly
and
reduce
suffer.
that.
It's not your style to look over your shoulders. It's not your
So I would like
fight
to
be
activate small
sober and
bands. So
suffer.
here's one. Let's
It's
activate
not your
this one as
style
well.
to look over your shoulders, baby. Baby, I'm sorry that you lost your way. Baby, baby, remember how you used to shine.
So what I want us to do next is, playing on solo this, and let's play it with the beat and see what is going on. Also, I'm going to loop this part so that we can stick to using just a particular part of the song so nothing gets too overwhelming for you. Let's do this.
You act a fool for love. It's unlike you to turn so blue.
So I want us to turn off the EQ off and on, and let's see how it sounds in comparison. Let's compare how it sounds with or without the EQ.
Unlike you,
This is how it sounds without the EQ
Why do you act a
and with
fool
the EQ.
for love? It's unlike you to turn so blue. What made you turn a fool for love? It's not your fault.
It sounds clearer, and but I would like to have more presence. One thing I would also want you to know that you can use more than one EQ on your vocal chain. You can add more than one EQ effect. After I use this one, I can decide to add an extra EQ. Let's try this channel EQ and see what it does for us. This channel EQ, let's see.
You act a fool for
You can
love.
come on
It's
here.
unlike you.
As it as you can see, this channel EQ has limited things than the EQ8 has. So it just has 3 bands: low, mid, and high. So you can adjust those. You can select them. There is not, unlike EQ8 that you have so many different kind of bands that you can select from. This only has a high pass or low cut filter. High pass filter is also low cut filter because when it's cutting the lows, it's allowing the high to pass. Just think of it that way. And the same way we have that in low cut filter, we also have a high cut filter, by the way, but we'll get into that. So looking at this now, you can, I feel like I want this to have a little bit more presence, so I would want to boost the frequency around the high ends. So let's come on here. Now it's too much, it's too crispy, so I would slightly reduce that. And the lows, I think I'm good with the way the lows sound right now. We did a really good cut on the EQ8, so do you think that sounds good? I don't. So, but oops.
What did he do? Why do you act a fool?
I think I like it just right here. So you do not have to use just this kind of EQs. There are a lot of EQs that you can use. Towards the end of the class, I'm going to give us different kind of EQs, and you just a lot of them are paid, but it will do you some good to check them out. So, but I want us to make use of EQ8. Also, we can make use of EQ3, which is this one, but then I prefer the channel EQ to this. So yeah. So depending on the kind of sound you're going for, we can either make something sound crispy or warm. When you're tilting towards crispy, we would want to increase a lot on the high end, and if we're leaning towards having a warm sound, we can lean towards boosting around the mids and high mids. So depending on what you're going for in a song, that is how you do your EQ. And for mixing, I'm going to be saying a lot of depending on, because there's nothing written in stone when it comes to mixing. There is no right way. There are just certain tricks and tips and ways that you can do things to make something work. At the end of the day, there's still the creative element to it, which means you're allowed to do whatever you want. But for you to get to that point where you can fully express your creativity, there are just some little things that you can keep in mind. Okay. One thing that you should never be shy of using is frequency charts. There are frequency charts all over the net that gives you an idea of where different frequency primarily lives, and then where you can bold and cut to make them shine in a mix. So I'm going to make those available. One is going to probably be showing on this screen as you're watching, so just check that out, and I'll also make it available for you to download, or you can just go on the net and download those. They would really help you. So as beginners, just master your sweeping technique. You can just check around for things that you think sound odd, that you do not like, and reduce them. And things that you, and you can also boost the things that you like. If you think you like how something sounds around this frequency, then you can do slight boost. But when you're mixing and doing EQ specifically, we need to be careful of over boosting things. When you're just boosting, when you're boosting this, boosting that, you might end up making everything sound crazy or too crispy or just lifeless. So it's important that we think about that. And also, one thing that can be tricky about EQ is the mids and the low mids. If you're not careful, if you're trying to go for something warm, you might end up boosting the mids so much that it sounds muddy. The song doesn't, it sounds like you're in a box, like you are just in a little box, and the sound cannot get out. So I would want us to understand different kind of bands that we have on an EQ. EQ8 is already a good example. That's, I'm just loading an extra one here to explain. First, this is called a low shelf. It allows you to reduce a particular frequency that is on the low side here without completely taking it out. Its twin brother is the low pass, this one, which allows you to completely take it out. And then we have their high counterpart. So let's activate it. So this is a high cut and also called a low pass. So because it cuts off highs and allows the lows to pass that way. I hope you understand. So if we put, let's mute these other EQs that we've done now and see the way this will sound now that we've cut off so much of the highs on this particular track. No fool for love. See how it sounds boxy? See? Now it's almost back to normal, and then it's almost not even audible anymore because you've taken a lot of the presence of the vocals away. So let's do the extreme for the low ends too. When we cut off such huge parts of the low end, this song lacks warmth. It's just like air. It's just like you're listening to air, but there's really no substance to it anymore. So those are two kinds of filter. And the way we have the low shelf here, we also have the high shelf, which is this one, which allows you to make cuts but not totally take it. Oh, excuse me. Okay, yeah. This is the high shelf, allows you to cut the high shelf but not totally take it off. So it's like it's highly reduced. The highs are highly reduced. So it's still there, but it's not as present. That's just the difference. And then these ones that we have in the middle, they are called bell filters. They are bell shaped. As you can see, the way they are shaped, like they're shaped like bells. So this is just usually in the middle of most EQs. Yeah. So those are the major kind of filters that you would come across on most EQs, and EQs are different. This EQ8 is a parametric EQ in the sense that it gives you so much flexibility. It allows you to, you can see the graphic, it gives you the graph visually. You can see what is going on, and then you have the option to adjust the frequency, the gain, the bandwidth itself. You can choose the size of your bandwidth. You can choose how high you want to how low you want to reduce, or how high you want to increase. And then your frequency, you can choose whatever frequency you need to among the within the 8 bands that have been provided. Some equalizers do not give you that opportunity. You get the option to pick the frequency, but you don't know how wide the bandwidth is. You don't know how deep your cut is, but doesn't mean they are less good. No, they are still great. So another thing that your EQ can do, aside the ones we have already learned, is that you can do certain creative things with it. Let's delete this one, and okay, you know what? We still definitely need an EQ8. Let's use this. You can use this. I'm sure when you listen to song, you listen to things like telephone vocals. You can use your EQs to make sounds that sounds like someone is on the phone and stuff like that. So let's try and get that. I think if you reduce, They're just creative ways you can use your EQs. If you're singing and you want your vocals to sound like someone that is like really, really deep, you can use your EQ to do that. You just have to boost certain things and reduce certain things. So let's check this out. We're trying to make the vocals sound like telephone vocals, by the way. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to make this and what is it? It is still unsure. Okay, let's make this. So let's see how the vocal sounds with. Like you, what did he do? Why do you act a fool for love? It's unlike you. So you can see it's giving that. It's giving that telephone vibe that you get in songs where the ex is calling and it's like, "Hello, why have you not been picking my calls? Pick my calls," and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what it's giving right now. So there are a lot of creative things you can do with your EQ. And also, if you check Ableton out, there are a lot of presets that you can use with the EQ. I think there's already a telephone presets that comes with Ableton. Let's check that out. Yeah, you see, it kind of looks similar to mine. You see? So, and this is how your favorite artists get that. "Hello, I'm in your house. Why are you not picking my calls?" thing that they do. Anyways, that is just one of the creative things you can do with EQ. One thing that we were learning at the board that we have not shown is the using EQ to make space. So now we're going to look for a bass sound, and then we are going to look for a kick, and we are going to learn how to make space in a mix for. So let's create a new track. Control T. Oh my god, I'm not in my. Okay, let's just see. I'm sure we'll find something that works. Looking for something that is in wave format. Sometimes just put in there. Okay, I think this might be a good one. So let's see. We have a bass right there. Then let's search for a kick. Okay, I think this would work. Let's create another track. We are going to. We're going to solo this too. So it's the only thing that plays for now. Okay, this is me taking it out of that group. So as you can see, both of them are playing together. You almost don't know which is the kick or which is the bass anymore. But what an EQ can do for us is, let's put an EQ on this bass and see what's going on with it. We can deactivate this clip by just pressing 0 and listen to the bass first. See where the bass lives from 0 to around 1k, and then there's a little bit going on after 1k, right? Now let's play the kick and just deactivate this. And now let's put an EQ on that too. See, the kick has more going on around here around a little bit after 1K than the bass does. So how do we use EQ to fix this maxing problem? Because they are almost at the same kind of frequency. So what EQ will do for us now is that, although another thing we can use to differentiate this is a compressor, but when we get to that part, we are going to explain it. But then what an EQ will do for us here is, you see how this goes? Where it stops. In case I never mentioned, this is how to zoom in and out on Ableton. I don't think I've mentioned that previously, but I guess you're learning it right now. So on the EQ that we have on the bass, we are going to do a slight cut somewhere to accommodate our kick, right? So the kick can shine a little bit more. So we are going to make space around 100 to 300 hertz on the bass to help the kick shine, and then we are going to cut around 80 hertz ish on the kick to help the bass shine. So let's go on here, and okay, we are on the bass right now, so let's come here and let's see, this is around 300 ish, and then let's just do a slight cut right here. Nothing too serious, nothing too serious. And then we come on the kick, yeah, and then we cut around 80. Yeah, I'm going to change this to a bell curve, by the way, and then okay, this is not working, so we are going to turn this right back to, let's make use of this one. Yeah, around 80. Let's adjust the skew, and somewhere here, and see how it sounds now compared to when we just make this little space here around 80, and see how it sounds now. Now we can hear the heat of the kick, unlike before. Because we made space on the synth bass, and then we made space on the kick as well. So doing this prevents maxing in our mix generally. If we're mixing instrumentals right now, this kind of technique would come in really handy and make our mix much more cleaner and, pleasant to the ears. So that's it for this class on EQ and the frequency spectrum. And for this class, we have an assignment. So there's an extra file on the Google Drive link which contains the stems to the beats of this song that we're working on. It has all the separate elements. I want you to take those stems, import it into your Ableton, and try to mix it using the knowledge we have gained today. When you're done with the assignment, upload it on Google Drive and send me the link. I'll see you on the next episode where we are going to be discussing dynamics and compression. See you then. Bye.